Hello, guys. Thanks for joining us this evening. We're going to carry on with the snooker profiles. Tonight we have got Martin Gould. Martin, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Good evening.
Well, it's always nice to see that some of the guys are starting to come on again. We sort of lost track a little bit with the player profiles, and so we do these to let some of the amateurs, snooker fans out there just have a little bit of an insight into the players and how they feel things are going on the tour, and talk a little bit about their backgrounds and what have you. And we've got Martin again coming on. Martin, just like Tom last week, Martin, you've almost had 20 years on the snooker tour. 20 years. Does it feel like 20 years nearly?
Feels more like 60.
That's what Tom said last week, actually, funny enough. I don't know.
I feel like I've been on it for generations.
Yeah, it's one of those things I think about when I speak to a lot of the professionals. They say, Dave, I feel like I've had 2 or 3 lifetimes at this, and I'm still not getting anywhere. It's just like it's one of them things. But anyway, Martin, let's start at the beginning. Okay, let's see how far back we can go here. You grew up in Harlow in London, if I'm right.
No.
No, where did you grow up?
Where I am at the minute, Pinner. I've been in Pinner all my life.
Right. So
I was born in Harrow.
Right.
I was born at Northwick Park Hospital, 14th of September 1981.
And just remind us where you grew up. Which part of the country is that, buddy?
Pinner is northwest. Well, I think it comes under northwest London. Mm-hmm. I'm literally in between Wembley and Watford.
Mm-hmm. I see. Okay. As I say, look, almost 20-year career, Martin. Okay, you're currently ranked 31 in the world. Oh, right on that one. Your highest ranking position was 11. So you've had a taste of really moving up there, and all that time. And I think you started on a challenge tour in 2000, thereabouts. I think, was that
99? I think it was. I started 99. They gave, back in them days, we were given pro status regardless if you were on the tour.
Yep.
I turned pro on my 18th birthday.
Mm-hmm. You're part of that.
Nice little birthday present.
So let's go again, Martin. Go right back to the beginning again. Let's start off. Who introduced you to snooker? How old were you? And how and let's talk about the youth a little bit. And how did that extend itself to you getting onto the tour?
Well, it's a weird one because no one in my family really played snooker. My dad watched it a lot. My dad did play a little bit, but I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, but he was absolutely useless. His cue that he has, I always said it would be better off in the fire as firewood. But my dad just he would go like Friday or Saturday night up to, fun enough, to the same club where I'm practicing now, Northwood Central. He used to be a member there for about 25-30 years. He used to go up there on a Friday and Saturday. I think it was more for beer than what it was for snooker purposes, but he had the odd game. But as for me picking it up from anybody, I just did it myself. When I was about 2, my dad used to book 2 weeks off when the World Championship was on, so he would not miss a single shot, because in them days you got value for watching the snooker. Not like these days, you have to press the red button or go on some kind of app to watch the snooker. Back in them days, it came on at 9:59 or whenever, and it stayed on right the way through the day. Nowadays, they take it off for hairy bikers when it's like 9-all and last 6 colours left. So in them days, my dad used to sit in front of the telly for 2 weeks, and mum didn't really get a look in at what was on the telly them days. I was about 2.5. I was faster kip in my cot or whatever it was that I was in at the time. The snooker music came on, and it was like I rose from the dead. And then I just started watching. Obviously, I wouldn't have had a clue what was going on. or anything like that. But yeah, I was about two and a bit. When I was about 3 or 4, my dad got me a little table just in the front room. Never got me off it. When I got a little bit older, my sister, we transferred one of the 3 bedrooms upstairs into like a little boys' room, basically. So I had like snooker table, bits and pieces in there. Obviously not full size or anything, just a little 5x3 or 6x3, something like that. And yeah, you just never got me out of there. Mum used to always scream at me at like 9:30, right, time for bed, you got school in the morning. I sod school. I just wanted to play snooker. I literally, as people, where my window was for there, I could see all the kids outside, and like they're all trying to get me to come outside and stuff like that. But I didn't want to leave the snooker table. So in the end, it got more like all the kids used to come to my house, and we used to just play snooker all the time. So it was good fun back in them days.
Well, sounds to me like, Martin, it sounds to me like you were completely and totally obsessed from the age of what, 3 years old. I mean, look, I can't remember anything, Martin, from the age of 7 or 8, just barely 8. You know, probably why I'm so.
I'm one of those that I can remember useless information. I've got a good brain cell for keeping rubbish information, and anything that I do need to keep in my brain cell, like which end of the snooker cue to hold, I forget.
Right, so okay, right. Let's get up a wee bit here now. You're sort of what, say 6. When did it start extending itself to the snooker halls? Then, how old were you?
Well, first of all, I've got like a little social club across the road. Like they had a pool table in there when I was like 8. My mum used to on the Thursday night play bingo, so she would be in the bingo hall in the back room, and I'd be in with all the boys watching them play pool, and when I was allowed to, playing as well. When I got to about 9 years old, they banned me from playing because the adults got the ump because I kept beating them. But a good friend of mine who I've known since them days, and I'm still good friends with him now as the cat comes through on the camera, he thought it was all over. A good friend of mine that I still hang around with now, Mark Smith, he kept like trying to coerce my mum and dad to say, look, we could do with this boy playing in our pool team on a Thursday night. Obviously just the home games to start off with. But because I'd been banned, they put a sign up saying no one under the age of 16 could play on the pool table. What we used to have to do was get both sets of teams to stand around the pool table so no one could see over the top. And then I could play my one frame and then go and sit down as if I hadn't done anything wrong. So that's how that started. And then when I got to about 12, 13, I started skipping school and going up the snooker hall instead. So I found that snooker was more, I was going to learn more from playing snooker than I was from school, put it that way. I'm not saying that I did it right, but for me, school was not going to be something that I was going to follow up once I'd left anyway. I wasn't going to go to university. I wasn't going to go college. Unless they give you a degree in how to play snooker or something, that was never going to happen. So
kind of like Jimmy in a way, I suppose. Jimmy White, you know.
Yeah.
They had no choice. You know, they knew Jimmy had a lot of potential. He skipped school, so they gave him that time in the club to extend his.
Yeah. Well, obviously, my mum got in trouble with not just with the school, but they sent like some officer around to find out why I wasn't going to school. So I went back to school briefly. They were looking at how my schoolwork was progressing, and they could see like he obviously doesn't want to be here. So my head of year at that time, I can't remember his first. I think it was Ray Edwards. His name was, but I would obviously used to call him Mr. Edwards. And it was a case of he called me into his office and he said, "Look, you obviously don't want to be here. We can see the state of your work and everything. There's the door. Don't let it hit you on the backside on the way out." But then just as I was leaving, he's gone, "I'd just like to inform you, you'll never make it as a snooker player. You'll never do anything. You'll never make anything of your life because you're not prepared to stay in school." So I was like, okay, that was my first incentive to then turn around and say, right, this is where I'm going to stick middle finger right up where you know where, and prove a point that I am capable of doing it. Don't get me wrong, it took me a few years to get there, but I got there in the end. And I have actually heard from him since, and he apologized for his thing. He said, I'm very pleased that you proved me wrong.
Indeed, indeed, that's the way it turned out. So, Martin, what were you doing? Were you hitting 100 breaks by this time at the age of 13, 14? Were you? What?
Yeah, I think it was around about late 13-ish. I remember I used to practice where my dad worked. My dad was a bus driver in them days. He worked at Metroline, and they had 2 snooker tables in there. So if my dad was doing like a split shift where he started at 9, finished at 9, I used to go with him at 9 o'clock in the morning and then come home with him at 9 o'clock at night. So I was doing like 12 hours a day. I'd obviously stop for a bit of food in between, but more often than not, if I didn't have anyone else to play or like any friends or anything, I used to just play any of the bus drives that came in, just to like play. And if no one was available, then I just practiced on my own. But yeah, I made a couple of centuries then, and then as I got a little bit older, sort of 14, started knocking in regular centuries and then a couple of maximums, and it just progressed really. So yeah, it was nice playing in where my dad worked, because obviously I wouldn't have had any money or anything like that. So it was only costing me like 60p an hour. So 60p an hour compared to a snooker club, which would be say for maybe 3 or 4 quid at that time. It was a big difference. So it was handy.
There's something I want to throw in here, Martin. You know, I had a discussion today with some ex-professionals about this. You know, we were talking, as you know, I was speaking to some people today about some venues for potential events, and we were talking about the conditions of tables. At this time, it's sort of this time where you just touched on. Were you concerned about the types of tables you were playing on, or were you just happy to play on any table as long as you could play?
In them days, I didn't care as long as it had 6 pockets and a relatively half decent cloth. I didn't give a monkeys. Obviously, like the tables I used to practice on that growing up, it was like playing 9-ball, bucketville. Pockets were huge, but I suppose in them there was no star tables or anything like that. I think they were using Riley Aristocrat back in them days, and let's be honest, they weren't exactly tight. So you had some. I used to practice at on the odd occasion with Alfie in Ealing, and Neil Folds used to be there, and Neil Folds had one of the tightest tables I've ever seen in my life. You literally couldn't roll a ball down the cushion. If you could just gently drop it down the cushion, it would never go in. It was like mouse's ear holes. That was how tight.
Very tight.
So.
And so when did you get your first taste of like professional pockets and really good quality tables? What sort of age were you?
18 I was, yeah. Oh, I probably had a little bit of a taste, like practice. I used to practice a lot with Robin Hull. That boy was a machine back in them days, an absolute machine. That was my apprenticeship more than anything, playing Robin on a regular basis. Used to just fetch balls out for him non-stop. That guy, I can't believe how good he was, but unfortunately he had some health problems as well, but he was one of the best players I've ever seen. And I've had the privilege of practicing with Ronnie and people like that, and Robin Hull is definitely up there. Same with Alfie, to be fair. Same with Alfie.
So you were like just coming of age about this time, you know, in terms of everything, you know, yourself and your snooker was progressing. Who were you idolising at this time? Who were you looking up at and going, wow, I want to be him?
Hendry.
Stephen Hendry. And why was that? What was it about his game that really took you?
All out attack. Very rarely played safe, but it was the way that he used to just win matches. He used to just destroy it. To be fair, he probably had half his opposition beat before they've even got out there. It was his will to win more than anything. If anything, I liked sort of Hendry. I liked if you look at other sports, Phil Taylor, Tiger Woods, Federer, all continuous winners, particularly Phil Taylor in the dart scene. He was just a winning machine. Hendry's a winning machine. Federer, Woods, they were all in the same bracket. Their will to win was just unreal.
That's very, very interesting, that, because it's something that a lot of professional sports people talk about, and it's having this extra special thing. I mean, look, we've got great players on the tour who are at the very, very top, and they're there for a reason. You know who we're talking about. We're talking about Ronnie. We're talking about, obviously John Higgins and the likes of former world. We can go way, way back to the days of Joe Davis, Ray Reardon, Stephen Henry, Steve Davis, all those names. I mean, these guys all have something really, really special, and that's related to snooker. So what is it? What do you think it is that these guys need to have from a young age that extends itself to them becoming the very, very top of their game? What is it?
I think what I've seen with quite a fair few of the youngsters coming through is if like a lot of parents like to get involved, and I understand because they might be a only child like myself. I'm my dad's only child, not my mum's only child. But I can understand. Like I've seen with a few kids. I used to travel a lot with Sean O'Sullivan, and I used to see some of the grief that his old man used to give him if he lost a match, and I'm like, that's not the way forward. Like you should be encouraging him, not knocking him. Like he's not going out there on purpose to lose. He's going out there to give 100% and try. As I say, I used to do a fair bit of traveling with him. Back in the day, I used to practice a lot with Martin O'Donnell when he was first starting. I basically told him that it was a case of you need to make a choice because his mum and dad wanted him to go college and then go on from there. But I could see he just wanted to play snooker. So I kind of said to him, I said, look, in life, you're going to disappoint people at times. So I said, if you don't want to go college, you need to have a sit down chat with your mum and dad, say to them, this is what you want to do, and hope and pray that they're going to back you. And that's what they did with him. So obviously it's not always going to work out for everybody, but I think if you can get your parents to be more encouraging, more than like knocking you if you had a bad result. Like for instance, when my dad used to come with me, my dad never ever told me off at a snooker tournament. Never ever said to me, I think you should have played it that way. All he said to me was, you're out there, you're giving 100%. I can't tell you what to do because I'm not good enough. You know what you're doing. If it happens, happy days. If it don't, then we get down on the motorway, we go home, and then we get back to work on the practice table, and we try and iron out a few little bits and pieces that need doing.
Very, very important point. In fact, myself and Tom Ford talked about this last week for a few minutes. The kind of pressures you can get from people, family and friends. When you find yourself getting there, very, very close to getting on the tour. When you get on the tour, I think there's times when a lot of young guys can get the wrong advice, or there could be too much pressure. I mean, this generation. These days, you've been on the tour nearly 20 years. There's a lot of kids coming in now. They're under a lot of peer pressure as well, but they're under a lot of pressure, different kind of pressures from their family, and the expectations that that's instilled in them, and what they aspire to believe in themselves and what they want to achieve becomes very, very difficult because of this, Martin. Really difficult.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how the Chinese boys, what sort of whether they get anything from like back home in between, like if they're not winning matches or not doing well. I don't think they would kind of get the same pressures as what a young aspiring, say 12, 13-year-old English boy would get. I've experienced it in China many a time where I've gone to some of the local schools and just like more often than not, it's just been like a PR day. We've just gone to have a look at a school and so on. But their school gymnasiums, it's frightening. It don't have gym stuff in it. It's full of snooker tables, and like I remember talking to one of the young kids there, and I jokingly said, "So what homework have you got to do tonight?" He goes, "I've got to practice potting 5 long blues." I was like, can I be your age again and come to this school and restart my life again? It was unreal. Like they were practicing potting 5 reds, 5 blacks, long blues, and it probably proves why they're so good is because they eat, breathe, live snooker. I think more often than not with some of the Chinese boys it's a case of they've got nothing else to do though. So basically that's why they're always in the snooker club. I think if they had sort of the same sort of culture and stuff as what we have, they'd probably be involved in doing some other stuff as well. But because they're in a country that they're not too familiar with, they're probably thinking, well, rather than going out not knowing what's what, particularly if they can't speak great English. A lot of the boys now, they've learned a lot. So I think with the language barrier at times, I think they just find it much more easier putting some headphones in their ears and going to play snooker for a few hours. I think that's what they prefer. Whereas over here, we get told we got to do this, we got to do that, and so on and so on. So it's a little bit different, I think. But yeah, it's.
We'll touch on that, the Chinese influence, if you want to call it, or that has come on such a long way, really, even from the academy in Sheffield. Just want to touch on at the point for you, Martin, when you were playing in the Challenge Tour, and then you got on the tour. So talk me through a wee bit of that time when you got yourself just before and then when you got on the tour. Talk us through.
I remember the year before I got on the tour. I'd had a pretty good challenge tour, to be fair. I didn't get into automatic qualification, but I weren't far away. It was a case of I then got told about the English amateurs. Malcolm Thorne told me about it. Lovely guy he was. Obviously Willie's brother. Unfortunately, both of them are now no longer with us, which is a shame. But Malcolm, he said to me, "Would I be interested?" So I thought, well, why not? It's worth a crack. Have a laugh and see what happens. I ended up winning it. My first attempt. I remember playing the final in Kings Lynn, and I beat Craig Taylor in the final 8-6. And so it used to be a case that the English amateur winner would get an automatic spot on the tour. So it wasn't a case that I took that for granted. I wrote into World Snooker and applied because obviously it wasn't a given. So they asked me to write in to apply for a nomination. So I did that, and I didn't get it. Ricky Walden got it. Ricky Walden got his place. He was dropping off the tour, and he managed to get the nomination, and he got the tour card. So I just said to myself, right, okay, next year I'm going to finish #1 on the Challenge Tour, and you ain't going to be able to stop me from getting on the tour. So I thought that gave me some extra incentive. And the following season, I finished #1 on the Challenge Tour. So I did kind of wait for World Snooker to contact me and say, sorry, you still haven't reached criteria. You still can't come on the tour. Because in them days, it kind of felt like if your face fit. And obviously, I'm not your normal looking snooker player. As Joe Johnson's once said, he said, if he put a lineup of 6 players and me in the middle, and you ask somebody random to pick the snooker player, they'd never pick me. I don't look like a traditional snooker player. That's what he said, but what does he know?
You could say the same about Sean Murphy and Chris Henry. Personally, I'd lock them up and put them away and throw away the key, but you can't have everything, Anyway, you got on a tour, okay? Eventually you got on a tour, all right? And you must have went, wow, what a relief. I've made it, but you were probably going to make it anyway because you had a lot of faith in yourself because you're talking along those lines. And let's go through the first few years, first 5 years. Start playing competitive professional snooker.
Well, my first actual match when I did turn pro, I played Andrew Higginson, and I beat Higginson. I think it was 5-3, and when we left the cubicle, I think we were playing at Prestatyn at the time. Pretty sure it was. we left the cubicle, and his dad was talking to my dad, and I was talking to him. He went, "I'd never even heard of you before." Well, in fact, actually, I'd actually had a great run in the World Championship qualifiers before I got on tour. I won 4 matches in the Challenge Tour, and then I won 4 in the main tour round. I beat Di John to knock him off the tour, beat Alain Robidoux, Lee Walker, Stephen Maguire. And while I was playing Maguire, like, we were playing at Blackpool at the time, and literally there was one man and his dog watching. And I think I was 5-4 up going into the evening, and I've come out in the evening. I've made 2 breaks of 40 in the first frame, an 80, and then a 137. So I'm now 8-4 up, and it's gone from having one man and his dog to literally you can't get anybody else in there. Everybody wanted to know what was going on, because obviously I'm unheard of. And my dad sat in the players' lounge. He was laughing his absolute nuts off, because there's all these snooker players talking, going, "Who the hell's this geezer that's giving Maguire a tonking?" I can't get in to see who he is. My dad's just sat there keeping his mouth quiet, and he's laughing, and he's going, "That's my boy," and stuff like that. Obviously, Maguire did come back at me, but I managed to finish him off. But I lost to Patrick Wallace 10-1. That was a literal. That was what you call bringing back, literally a big bang back down to earth. That guy, mate, he was struggling as well that season. So the fact that I probably beat Maguire it probably sparked him up, thinking, well, I can't take this boy lightly.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to properly introduce him to match snooker, because I was just going there. I went there with the theory of I could pot everything and anything, but he tied me up in knots. But it was a case that the first 8 frames, I don't think he made a break less than 80 when he got in, less than 80. And I was like, wow, if this is the standard just coming into this round, I'd hate to think what the rest of it's like. Because if he was playing that well, he beat me 10-1, and I was happy to have won one. I remember I gave it the fist pump when I won a frame, and shouted out, at least I avoided the whitewash. But it was a nice learning curve. That was, I think that helped me for when I did finally get on tour.
It's funny, you remember the significant games. You'll probably never forget that match with Maguire, because it's your first really big win, and you know what, I feel like I can do something now, So, okay, well, never mind about Maguire and Wallace. All right, yeah, better days were to come. Okay, so let's move on to the better days. At what point just after that did things really start moving for you?
It's difficult to say, really, because I only had the 1 year to start off with, because in them days it was 6 tournaments. You were more or less $1 million to stay on tour as a new boy. You literally had to hit the ground running straight away, and you had to virtually qualify for every event first season. And for a new boy, that's not going to happen. Not in them days. I fell off tour the following year, but I was ready to come off tour probably 2-3 months before that. To be fair, I didn't really want to play the end of the season. My mum was really ill. I knew she didn't have much time left. So for me, snooker sort of took a back seat. I just wanted to enjoy what I had left of knowing that my mum was going to be passing away. So I made sure that I looked after her. Me and my sister did a bulk of all that. And I took a couple of years. I think I played 1 year on the Pios tour. I didn't get back on the tour, and I started to really think to myself, well, it's not a case that I don't want to play. I can't afford it now. I didn't have a sponsor. I couldn't. My dad helped me out as much as possible, but I couldn't keep saying to him, "Oh, I need money for this. I need money for that." I was like, I didn't want to go to a tournament saying to myself, "Well, if I win the first round match, that pays that bill. If I win the second round match, that pays that bill." And then I was putting myself under way too much pressure, and being 22 years old, it was a pressure that I wasn't ready for. So I said to myself, I'd rather go take some time away from the game, get a job, get some money behind me, and then hopefully in a couple of years or so, I might be able to give it another go. And I think I took 2, maybe 3 years away. I started working in the snooker club I was practicing in. I was obviously doing more work than actually. I didn't really play snooker at all. I had the odd game now and again, and there was a couple of guys in there that were always constantly moaning at me, saying, "You need to start playing again because you're wasting what you've got." And one guy entered me in the English amateurs. I think it was 2006, and he said to me, "I've entered you in the thing," because I remember getting like a letter through the post, and it was like a draw sheet, and I'm like, I had to ring the ASB up and say, "Excuse me, I don't know what's going on here, but I haven't entered no English amateur tournament." And they go, "Well, we received payment. It's got your name on it, so you're in the draw." I was like, "All right, okay." So my mate then rung me a couple of days later. He said, "Have you had any paperwork through?" And I was like, "You little git, it was you that put me in." He goes, "Yeah, I'm going to take you." He said, "Don't worry about any finances or anything. I'm going to look after you." So I was like, "Okay, great." And I said, "I'm not really going to practice much for the event." I said, in all honesty, I wasn't too fussed about playing the game anymore. I was enjoying what I was doing. Started poker dealing, and I started doing a few other bits, and I was like really enjoying stuff. So I didn't really want to rock the boat by trying to get on tour and then maybe getting myself back into position A again, where I've got nothing behind me. So he like I say, he entered me. I turned up to the first lot of qualifiers, got through them, then I got through the next lot. Sorry,
Martin,
got through the next.
that's a very, very good friend.
Sorry.
They're very few and far between friends like that do that kind of thing that they did for you.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen very often, and you took that time out to look after your mother, and you needed. You had no choice. You had to take that time out, but you've got a little bit of help, a little bit of support from friends and family, and you got back on again. And I bet, I have no doubt, absolutely no doubt, it made you a stronger person and a stronger player and a more determined player.
Well, the way I won the English amateurs was interesting, shall we say the least. I'm pretty sure. I'm hoping. I doubt he'll be online now anyway, watching this. But if he is, I'm sorry, but I have to mention it. David Lilly, I do apologise. But I know I have spoke to him. Obviously, I still see him around a bit. He has said that he still has nightmares over it, where he went in off on the final black, 7-all. I remember him potting the black. He potted an amazing black, and the white just went literally 2 miles an hour straight in the middle pocket. It was unreal. And then but I had to play the national playoffs afterwards, and I beat David Grace in the playoffs. I remember playing my first 2 matches. I don't think I'd picked up my cue for ages, and I won 5-0, 5-0. And I don't think I made a break over 32. So I was like thinking, well, if I'm beating these sort of players 5-0, 5-0, if I just put in a little bit more effort here between the next couple of days of when it finished, I said I could nick the tour card. And another company, a fellow ex-pro, Sanjay Magani, he had his dad's companies had said, "Look, if you get your tour card, we'll sponsor you for 2 years, guaranteed." So he said, "You've got nothing to worry about for 2 years if you get your tour card." So I was like, well, that took a huge pressure off, so I could relax. And I obviously won the tour card, managed to stay on tour on the first year, but that was mainly because the Grand Prix was group stages back in them days. So I had 6 matches in the groups. I know I didn't get through the group, but I had 6 matches, whereas normally you might only get 6 matches in the whole season if you lose first round every time. I got smashed by Ricky twice that season. So that Grand Prix event actually did me a favour, because I then qualified for the UK, and I had a good run towards the end of the season, nearly qualified for the Worlds that year. I think I lost to Rory in the last qualifier, or the last but one. But I'd done enough to stay on tour, and then literally never looked back after that. gradually just kept moving up and up. It was nothing like I didn't take one great big leap. I just did everything in steps, and 2009 qualified for the World Championship for the first time, lost to Mark Allen, and then Barry took over the game and he changed the whole concept. So the night of the final, I was ranked 46 in the world. The following day, I woke up and I was ranked 22 in the world because of the way he changed the system. So I was like, well, why couldn't you have come in like a few weeks earlier and I might be top 16 now? But no, it was that, and that's what changed. All the tournaments then changed. Like we had more tournaments, more opportunities, and in fact, actually, I did do one slight tweak to my game leading up to the World Championships in 2010. I was playing in the World Mixed Pairs. I had Pamela Wood as my partner, and obviously I didn't know much about her. I knew she played on the ladies tour, but I didn't know much about her. So I knew I had to do probably a bulk of the work. So I said to myself, I'm not going to go there, play negative and play safe or anything like that. I'm going to go out there with the intentions of all out attack, with the odd occasion throw a safety shot in, and just hope that when she gets an opportunity, she'll either pot a few and then run away, or literally do as I say. It's not very often that you get a female doing what you ask them to do. So
get away from that, Martin.
we got to the fight. We got to the final. We lost in the final, but the way I had played, I used that when I went to the Crucible, and I beat Marco. And then I, obviously, as everyone knows and everyone likes to remind me, I absolutely flew off my nut for 2 sessions against Neil Robertson. It got to the point where even Neil Robertson thought I was Ronnie O'Sullivan. That was how good I was playing. So unfortunately, I didn't get the job done, but I learned so much from that. So I stayed up at the Crucible for the whole duration of that. People thought I was mad. I thought to myself, why would I go home and just sit around and do nothing when I can stay in that bubble that I'd been in for however long, and I can just listen to people talking and so on. I can pick up stuff, and I'm enjoying myself at the same time. I'm in what we would say are my habitat. So, and I used it all as positives.
Can I just you've touched on a really important thing. You know, I try to express myself to the players who play in my competitions, especially young guys, and that's one of the reasons why I do these profiles, is to give them a wee bit of insight into the players and the problems that they have during the processes of winning matches and preparing themselves for events. And you know, you've touched on, you just mentioned a few things there which are fantastic to listen to, but this business of sticking around the event afterwards, a lot of the lads just take their cues and go home and give up. How important is it, Martin, do you think, for these young amateurs to stick around and just watch and just, you know, suck it up, stay to the event, stay to the end of it and watch? How important do you think?
It's a 50-50, because it depends on, like, from what I experienced when we had the PTCs, a lot of the boys, when we had the foreign ones, they would stay to the end, but they wouldn't be there for the snooker purposes. They'd be there, pool birds, nightclubs, casinos, pubs. Now, for me, that's the reason why they should have gone home once they got beat, because they're not there for the snooker purposes. They're there to have a good time, and I understand. Like, they're away. Maybe they want to have a good time. I understand that, but you can do that another time. In theory, you're there to work. You're not there to have a good time. You're there to do your work. If you don't get the job done, you go home and you work harder. Whereas a lot of the boys, they wanted to just go out to the pub, get as tanked up as possible. I used to say to a few of them, I was like, the amount of money you're going to spend staying there for 4 extra days, why not fly home once you'd lost? And it works out roughly the same. At least you're at home and you can do what you need to do and be in the club. You would have had 4 days practice rather than having 4 days hangovers, and then on the 5th day you might even have missed a flight coming home because you'd been out too late the night before. You just causing a bit of trouble and problems for yourself that was unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the boys back in them days, you might as well have spoke to the brick wall, because they ain't going to pay attention. Maybe it was just me they wouldn't pay attention to. I wasn't like top 16 in them days. I was outskirts. I was like sort of 32 to 48 at the time. They probably, if someone like a Ronnie or someone like that had said something, then they might have taken it on board. They probably looked at me and thought, well, who are you to say anything? Well, the reason is they're where they are now and where I am now, because we see things differently.
Good point. Very good point. All right, I want to talk about how you dealt with things on those days on the tour. You know, those early days. Let's just say the first, say first 5, 6, 7 years. I mean, things like traveling to the venue and nerves and, you know, settling into the matches. How did you deal with all that stuff, Marty? Did you have any problems settling in or traveling or getting yourself ready?
At the start, no. I like any normal person, sort of early 20s, mid 20s, you get into travel around here, there, and everywhere. So the travel part there, I was young, slim, relatively still fit at that time. Hadn't really done anything up until then. So I was enjoying the traveling part. I find that a little bit of nerves before you play helps you settle. I think if you turn up and play a match and you're not shaking before the match starts, then you're asking for a hiding, in my opinion. I don't know what other players are like. Everyone's different, but for me, to have, when like 10 minutes before you're about to go out, I go to the toilet, and I can normally tell if I'm nervous because I can feel it in my body, and I'm thinking to myself, well, it means something then tonight. It means something. Whereas sometimes you can go out there and you can be flat as a pancake, and nothing happens. You get days like that where it's just one of those days in the office where you just turn up and nothing happens. But I find a little bit of nerves before you play. Once you get into the arena, you hit your first few shots, you can normally start to tell how you feel and then how you're going to play. Obviously, you can't. I'd love to be able to win every match, but that's not humanly possible. Well, I think in some respects, I think if Ronnie was all correct up there, I don't see him ever losing the match. I've had the privilege of practicing with him for the last few weeks in between events, and I'm nearly 40 years old, and I've learned so much from him in the last few weeks. It's unreal. I'm not saying I knew everything, but I learned so much from just playing him. It was unbelievable. The guy is an absolute monster on the snooker table. I've never seen anything like it. What you see of him on the TV and what you see in practice, well, if you combine both of them together, you've got someone that can never be beat.
Something very special.
Oh, very, very special.
Just getting back to your good self again. So around about this time, so let's say halfway through your snooker career, I don't know where we are at the minute. Let's put ourselves somewhere around, let's say, getting to your first rank. Let's talk about your first ranking event final. I know your first win was in 2016, 17. 16. But let's talk about when you got your first ranking event final.
Well, the first one I got to was the PTC Grand Finals. I beat Michael Holt, Jamie Jones, Selby, and then I lost to Murphy in the final. But they were all best of sevens, so not a prop. It was still classed as a ranking event, but not a full-blooded proper one. Obviously, it was disappointing after I played so well to beat Mark in the semis. It was disappointing to go out there in the final and completely fall flat on my face, basically. But that was the first final. Then I got to the PTC final in Sheffield, where I lost to Dominic Dale. I think I got to about 2 or 3 like PTC finals before I finally won one. And I'd lost all my finals apart from the Murphy one, 4-3. I was 59 in front with 43 on in the decider against Dom, and somehow managed to lose that. I lost 4-3 to Fordy in the final. Selby's beat me in finals of it. Murphy's beat me in other finals of it. Trying to think who else had beat me in finals. I think that was it. And then when I just started, I used to work a lot with Del Hill, the snooker coach. But
Right.
I felt, as I loved Del, and I won't say nothing bad about him. He was one of the best guys I've ever met. But I felt as if he had taken me to a point where I couldn't get to the next level. I felt as if I was just hitting a brick wall. I couldn't get to the next level. And a good friend of mine, he had said about Stephen Feeney. So I was like, I didn't know nothing about him. So he put in a few words to Steve. He said, look, have a word with Martin. Like, I'm pretty sure I think Martin would take to your line of how you operate and stuff. So I arranged to see Stephen on the Monday before the PTC on the Thursday. I had like a 3-hour session with him, and it was like seeing snooker in a completely different light. It was like a complete eye opener. Couldn't believe what I was seeing, and a lot of it made sense with what he does with the alignment and sighting and stuff. So I had the 3 hours with him, and then the next day I went back up the club and I did 6 hours just on my own, just to keep drilling in what Stephen had told me. Then I went up to the PTC in Gloucester. I was fortunate, actually. Michael Holt pulled out in the first round, so I got a walkover. And then I think I played Jamie Cope, I think it was, in the second round, and I was 3-2 down and 50 behind with 67 on, and I cleared up. It was looking at it in that perspective, it was one of those where 3 years ago I would have cleared up without thinking about it, but because of things had changed and the confidence levels weren't as the same. I think if I hadn't have seen Stephen up until that point, I don't think I would have cleared up. I think I would have missed somewhere along the line. But I felt as if I had that extra confidence in myself to go and do it. I cleared up, won the match, and then ended up beating Maguire in the final of the PTC in Gloucester 4-3, and that was my first bit. Well, besides power snooker, that was my first bit of silverware, and then I went on to win the shootout. Went on to win Championship League, not once but twice. Lost in the final another time of it, and then 2015, I got to the final of the first event of the season, which was Australia. I lost 9-8 to Higgins. That was sickening, but it kind of, my flight home being 24 hours gave me a lot of time to think about things, and I was like, now that's the perfect way to start the season, getting to a final. Like, may not have won it, but perfect way to start. So I just said to myself, I need to build on that. So I had a few good results leading up to it, and then the UK came. I was flying in the UK. I was 5-1 up in the quarters against David Grace.
Where was this, Martin? The UK? 2015. Yeah.
Yeah. Got to the quarters of the UK. 5-1 up on Grace, flying my absolute nuts off. Couldn't miss a ball. And then I played one shot where I potted the green into the yellow hole, came round off ball cushion, side cushion, and the white went straight in the middle. And then after that, it was like the whole game changed, and I ended up losing 6-5, and I was really, really sick. But I spoke to Feeney the following morning. At the breakfast table, and he said, how do you feel? And I said, well, how do you think I feel? Without swearing, of course. And then just as I was leaving the breakfast table, I just looked at him and I went, you know what? I'm winning the next ranking event. The German Masters, that's mine. I'm having that. And he had a little look on his face as if to say, okay. But we got to sort of January leading up to it, I had a couple of practice sessions with Steve, and I'd had a bit of practice with some other players. But I never said anything about how I was feeling. I said to myself, no, I'm not going to say nothing to anybody. Like my dad would always ask me, "How you feeling good for it?" And I was like, "Yeah, not worried about it. I just want to go there, get there, and then worry about it when I get there." I booked my flight for the day I flew out, which was I think the Tuesday, and I booked my return for the Monday morning. So I was that keen and optimistic that I was going to be there Sunday. Obviously, I didn't tell anybody that because people would automatically think getting a little bit arrogant, a little bit cocky there, and could end up falling flat on your face. But I just felt so good in my own ability and what I was going to go out there and do that I felt as if this is my time. And I beat Mark Williams 5-4, beat Ben Wollaston 5-0. Then that was 32-16. I'm trying to think who I beat in the. I can't remember who I beat in the quarters, to be honest. It's unlike me to forget who I played. Might have been Ryan Day, or no, not Ryan Day. Can't remember now. That's gone. But then I had Dottie in the semis, and then it was between I was waiting on the winner of Luca and Kyron to play in the final. So, but when Luca had won, they interviewed Luca, and I happened to be just watching telly at the time, and I'd seen the interview, watching it live, and Luca was like telling I think he was talking to Neil Folds, I think it was. He was saying like he'd played me 3 or 4 times, and he was like, never beat him, never even got close to beating him. I'd given him a couple of good hidings. So I was like, well, I took on board what he was saying. I'm thinking, he's got it in his head that he can't beat me. So I was like, I had to try and stop myself from getting too ahead and thinking, well, I've won this now, because he feels as if he can't beat me. So I got into the final, and I probably felt over nervous in the final, if that can make sense, because I felt as if there was too much pressure on me, because I'm expected to now win, because Luca being in his first major final, I'd been in a couple, hadn't won them, but I was obviously odds-on favourite, and I couldn't have started off any worse. The first frame and a half, I was literally like, uh-oh, this is not good. I managed to nick the second frame on the black, and it's like spurred me into life, and I started to play. So I was quite thankful of that. But it was nice to get for me to win first major event. Besides like your York or Sheffield or a couple of other maybe places in the UK, I couldn't think of a better place to win my first one than the Tempodrome. 2,500 people screaming in that place. That roof, I tell you, the roof must have come off quite a few times with the amount. That's the one thing that I really do enjoy about playing in Germany is the fans are so knowledgeable. They give you respect. They applaud everything. They sit there quietly. They don't do anything. It's not like in some of these places like here where you constantly hear constantly. The old phone goes off, or sweet wrappers rattling, crisp packets rattling. But yeah, for me, if I wasn't to win a world or a UK, for me that was the best place to win. Tempodrome, unbelievable place. I still, in fact, I've still got it on my Skybox, the final. Now and again, I might watch it, and it still puts hairs on the back of my neck just when they introduced me into the arena, with the amount of noise that there was. It was unbelievable, and if hopefully at some point again I will get the pleasure of playing in front of that crowd, so I can say thank you once again to them for the amount of support that they've given me. I have a lot of German fans on my Facebook. They always message me before every tournament, wishing me good luck, and they'll message me every time I win a match, whether I lose a match. Whereas I get a lot of friends that I don't hear from. I'll only hear from certain people when I'm winning, and they're not there when I'm on a bad run. Whereas these German fans, they love me regardless.
All right, a lot of the professionals have very similar view on the German venue. Martin, you're not the only one. For some, they all love and miss going to Germany. Unfortunately, right, Marty. Let's talk about you. I want to talk about you a bit more in your game in general. Okay, this is pretty much a reflection on your whole career. All right, I want to talk about the kind of things, thought processes you were going through, being on the tour. I mean, I want to talk about. Have you ever questioned yourself on your technique? Was there times when you've said to yourself, I need to change my game," or did you change your game, and what changes did you make? Or
well, like I said, I changed coach. I went to Stephen Feeney in 2012/2013. We've never really. I don't. If he has changed anything in my technique, I don't know about it because we have a communication. I'll say to him, if you see something wrong, implement it. Don't tell me about it. Just implement it because I don't want to think about it. So we will work on certain things and he will do something with me and I won't have a clue what he's doing. But he'll change bits and pieces if needed. But for me, if anything, is for me, if I started changing anything in my game now, I'd probably end up going backwards rather than forwards. I think I've made my name from the way I've played the game, and I think that I play the game to a point where I understand when I have to curb it a little bit, where I have to play safe, whereas I can't pot everything. I'd like to be Judd at times, don't get me wrong, he pots everything, but there will be a day when that's not going to work for him. And that's why his safety game is improved, is because he's learned that he needs something to back it up just in case the potting side of it don't come off. And you got Mark Selby, another one who's a fantastic all-round player. He can grind you into the floor, but he can also beat you in a way where he could make 5 centuries, and you sat there as if to say, where's that come from? But there's for me, I can't change anything in my game because I think the way I play it, if I started changing it, I don't think I'd be the same person anymore.
What about your strength? What are your strengths and weaknesses?
Well, I'm not going to say any weaknesses because there might be snooker players watching this, and they might pick them up. So I can't give nothing. I can't give them any edges. My strengths is obviously my potting ability, long potting, scoring, and if anything, it's when I'm at the table, I very rarely give up. So I always try my hardest. I suppose in some ways I don't give much away when I'm playing as well. It's a case of I may make a mistake, and I don't give any emotion away. Now and again I'll be giving myself a good telling to under my breath, but I try not to allow any players to see any sort of emotion from me. Now and again you might see the odd little knock on the table or something like that, but it's very rare.
And in terms of preparing yourself, I know we touched on that before, but do you have any particular things that you do pre-match? Do you have like a specific type of practice routine, or is there anything? What sort of things go through your mind, and how do you apply that on the table? What sort of stuff do you prepare? How do you prepare yourself?
Well, I have a couple of superstitions, but like I always have to put left sock on first, left shoe first, left foot into the trousers. For some reason, I've always done it that way. I don't do it any other way.
Just
practice-wise, I'll very rare I change anything. I'll do the same as what I would do normally. I might just do the routines in a different order, not do it like this one religiously first and then that one and so on. I'll just mix it about. But I always make sure I have a cup of tea before I play my match, before I start. I always got to make sure I got, if it's not my flask that I've got with me, I'll make sure someone's made me a cup of tea. I don't think there's really anything major that I do that probably any other snooker player doesn't do, to be honest.
Some of the players regard you as a great one-ball potter. I think it was somebody, well, probably one of the best actually, in terms of getting yourself back into a frame with a great putt. You know, and is that a particular strength? Do you see that, or you get that view? I think it was. I don't know who it was. Was it? I think it was Judd that actually said you were probably one of the best one-ball potters he's ever seen. You know, but
that is, well, it's to be quite truthful with you. Us players, we don't really talk about anything to each other about that. It's like when we do an interview with yourself or someone else, then you start hearing bits and pieces. They might ask you, "Oh, what do you think of this player?" What if it could be like, for instance, I'm playing Judd first round of a tournament. They'll ask him some questions about me, and he'd be like, "Yeah, he's very dangerous." That's a word that I do hear a lot. Everyone says he's very dangerous. But another word that I do hear a lot is I'm not consistent, which is true. I'm not always consistent, but when I'm good, I can be very good. But when I'm bad, I can be very bad. But I'm human. I haven't got a remote control plugged into me back where someone can control me and make sure I don't miss. So it's one of those. But yeah, my long potting, if I'm a little bit critical, I don't think it's as good as what it was. It's still, it's dug me out of a few holes before, don't get me wrong. I'd always back myself when it comes to a long pot, to whether it be it could be something it could mean winning and losing the match or anything. I'll always go for it, and I'll always back myself to get it. But yeah, I know. I've obviously Judd and Ronnie and a couple of others have all said that my long potting is sometimes frighteningly good. So it's nice when you hear your peers talking about you in that way.
I think that leads me on to a sort of like another question. Is what do you want to do? Do you want to improve? What part of your game would you like to improve that you're disappointed with, say, over the last few years? Because you have progressed. Like a lot of players in your group or your peers, even, and to that extent, Martin, you've talked about your background. It's familiar, very familiar with a player of your sort of consistency and on the tour in terms of staying on the tour for the length you have. But you've improved. You've won your first big ranking event only just 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And do you see areas of your game which you'd like to improve?
I'd like to be probably a bit more of a power scorer. Don't get me wrong, my scoring ability is good, but I probably don't score heavy enough. Not if you compare my like last season, for instance, I think I made 4 centuries all season, and in the first tournament this season I made 4. So I've already sort of, if there's a few little bits. I think the one of the hardest parts for me is playing in the back rooms of these events at times. I'm not lucky enough to play on the main tables all the time. So playing in the back room on a regular basis, like particularly when we were playing our qualifiers in Barnsley or Sheffield or anything like that, I'm lucky if I've got 2 people watching. So that's my own problem, is the fact I like to play in front of a big crowd. I like to feel the buzz from the crowd. Whereas if you're playing in front of one man and his dog and a packet of crisps, it's very hard to get motivated. I find that very difficult. I suppose, like the consistency factor, it'd be nice if I was able to, like, I feel as if I can beat anybody. But I think sometimes it's just in my own mind. My head tends to like wander a bit now and again during matches, and when it wanders, that's when the problems start. I start making silly mistakes, and for me to be in the brackets of your like top 16 players, they don't do that. Whereas and that's probably one little thing that I'd tweak. But there could be times when I'm sat in my chair in between frames and I'm thinking about what I'm doing for dinner, or what I'm going to do after the match is finished, or thinking about if I'm getting beat, whether I can get home that night. I was having probably a lot of the time a lot of thoughts that shouldn't have been going through my head. There was, and then it obviously escalated because it got to the point where I started traveling, and I was literally getting 2-3 stops down the road, and I want to turn back and I just want to go home again. So it escalates a little bit. But if anything, I don't think there's an awful lot I would change in myself. If anything, it would just be the 6 inches between the ears more than anything. Just like it's nice. I do. There's a couple of people I will listen to when they're talking to me, but obviously there's some people that they like to give their $10 worth, and I can't listen to them because for me they're not in the position to give the advice. I'd always, don't get me wrong, before anyone takes it out of context, I always listen to the people and I will pick and choose. Sometimes they might come out with something that is useful information, but I'll pick and choose the info, and I'll look into it to myself, and I think, yeah, he makes a good point, or yeah, I don't agree with that, or so on. So I'll always listen to criticism and praise, but another thing that I've never liked is I don't like, as much as I like playing in the big crowd, I don't like the fame and everything that comes with it. I'm very quiet, I'm very shy, don't very rarely say boo to a goose. So I do find if somebody like proper gives me a lot of praise, like say for instance one of the commentators might say to me, what a fantastic performance, I find it really hard to actually answer the question, because I'm like, I don't know how to, because I'm not used to understanding how to accept praise or anything like that. So that's something I do find.
Players out there, Martin, are trying to get themselves together. You know what I mean? I could count them fingers. Sean Murphy, Stuart Bingham, Mark Davis, Jim. They're all the same. They're all dull. They're trying to get legs. That's why they come on here. You know, they're trying to get themselves together. You know, nobody ever worries about these things. But you touched on a lot of things that are very familiar, Martin. I think, and a lot of that sort of stuff is going through all of the players' heads. You know, I want to go on some general stuff, Martin, because we're sort of run behind time a wee bit here. I like to try and keep the player profiles down to an hour.
Well, put it this way: I'm like Louis Armstrong. I've got all the time in the world.
Right. I want your view now, Martin. This is I want your views on the current tour format. If you were to give World Snooker any advice or make any suggestions, or even tiny little things you would like to change, what would you advise the big up there to look at, just to look at again?
I think I'd do random draw, but not as in 128. I'd do the random draw from 1 to 80 and have the bottom lot play each other, and then to come towards us. So, because let's be honest, there's a lot of these boys that are coming on the tour. Their first 5-6 matches will be John Higgins, Judd Trump, Ronnie O'Sullivan, etc., etc. They're going to get humped week in, week out, and after about 5 weeks, they're probably thinking themselves, "Is there much point if I'm going to keep getting draws like this?
What am I doing here? Yeah,
what am I doing here?" All right, it's different now because there's no entry fee, so I think that's good. But they've still got to be able to pay their travel, their hotel costs. So, like, for instance, the World Championship qualifiers I'll use that as an example. It's first round, 0 or 10 grand. Now, why can't it be 8 grand, 8.5 grand for the first round, and 1.5 to whoever gets beat? I had a poor lad come over from Egypt 2 years ago. He got given a wild card nomination. He's paid his own flights, his own stay, his own everything.
Mm-hmm.
He sees he's drawn me. I've beaten him 10-0. And all they've done is said to him, thanks for coming. See you later. They've not even like offered him any money to cover hotel costs. He's paid his own flight. He's paid everything. And I'm like, what's the harm? Like, why do you need it 0 to 10 grand? Why can't you just take, even if you took a grand off, I think a lot of players would be happy with that. £1,000. So that way that at least they know that it's going to cover them for maybe 2 or 3 events, maybe 4 events. Particularly at the moment, we've got no travel really, as in like flights, long haul flights or anything. Everything's all UK based. So all they've got to really worry about is their petrol costs or train costs and hotel costs.
Do you not think there's too many players on the tour, Marty?
I suppose 128. Yeah, you could say slightly too many. I'd maybe go 96. But it's one of those where you could either go cut it down to maybe 64, 80, or open it completely up again and like just have everybody back to how it used to be back in the day. But I think if you did that, with the way that tournament structures are at the moment, I don't know if they would be able to get venues for that amount of time to play all the tournaments. So having 128, I think is a fair number. I suppose in theory, maybe a lot of people that will watch the snooker, they'll look at it and think that some of the bottom lot, they're not good enough to be on the tour, but they've earned their right to be on the tour, so they deserve the chance to try and prove themselves. So if anything, if I was to cut it a little bit, I'd cut it at 96, but I wouldn't go any further than that.
What's your views on the amateur game, Martin? What does it need to do? What sort of things?
Oh, well, I don't think there's been much of an amateur game for the last few years. I know you do quite a few tournaments yourself, but back in when I was like growing up, there was pro-ams here, there, and everywhere. Obviously, you had Willie Thorne Snooker Club every weekend, possibly even during the week. There was always a pro-am on, without fail. Every snooker club around the world, like in the UK, for instance, there was a pro-am. There was at least 1, maybe 2 pro-ams a weekend that you could at least find yourself going to. Now, there's nothing. A lot of snooker clubs, obviously, not just from the pandemic, but before it, the smoking ban had a huge effect on a lot of snooker clubs. That lost them a lot of clientele. My first proper snooker club I practiced in, that closed down. A lot of places are closing down. They just can't afford it anymore. You're not getting a lot of kids that want to play snooker anymore. Not to the extent of what it used to be like. A lot of the kids nowadays want to play their football. They want to play cricket. They want to play golf. They want to play tennis. They're the 4 main sports that people would have played 5, 6, 10 years ago because there was money involved in it. And I mean huge money involved in it, whereas snooker was lagging behind. But now snooker's probably not quite matching them, but you've got opportunity to earn if you perform for a whole year and win, say, 3, 4, maybe 5 events. You're quite easily going to pick up £1 million, whereas 10 years ago you'd be lucky if you picked up anything. For a lot of the kids, I think, for me, I think a lot of them because snooker can be either a really quick game or a very slow game, depending on what kind of style you are.
Well, watch this space, guys. We're going to turn that around because because hopefully from March or April, we're going to be having 7 pro-ams a month in 4 different clubs, including a sponsored 32-player best-of-9 event. Wow. So, Martin, hopefully we can turn that around for the boys. I have trouble with the numbers. As you say, the game is hard to drag kids into. The good kids that are out there are really very good, Martin. They're really good players. And we're gonna try and help them in the coming months.
Well, a lot of the kids these days, they what they want to do is they want to be in. If they're not outdoors playing around, they PlayStations, Xboxes, and stuff.
Marty, don't even touch on that subject, please. I'm going to have to start drinking more wine. Let's stick with you a minute. I want to talk. We've run over time. Okay, and this is your fault, by the way, not mine. Don't blame me for this. Okay.
Don't care. As I say, I've got plenty of time. So,
listen, I want to talk to you about a couple of things before we wind this up. Okay, I want to talk to you about your equipment. Okay. I always ask this to all the guys that come on here. I want to talk about your kit. So I want to know. We're going to talk about these glasses because very few players play with glasses on the tour. Now, let's touch on why are you wearing the glasses for snooker only, or because you in general, and have you changed the glasses over your career?
I've worn glasses since I was about 3 years old. I had a squint when I was little in my right eye, so I've virtually. It's got to the point now, as I've got older, they have said to me, I don't need to wear glasses all the time. It's just for certain things like watching telly and a couple of other bits and pieces, reading and stuff like that. But
I'll tell you, Marty,
I don't.
I'm a little bit confused about see when I watch you play, and you're getting down on the shot. And you're wearing those little glasses, I'm thinking, can you actually see the line of shot? Because it looks like you're actually looking over the top of the glasses.
My name's Clark Kent. I'm Superman.
So are you actually getting the lens view of the shot line?
Well, back in them days, obviously I've changed glasses now. So, but in the days when I've got the proper ones now. I changed roughly a year ago. So I got my glasses from a guy called Chris Cheshire, snookerspecs.com. He's picked up a lot of business since I've been wearing them. So a lot of other snooker players.
When I put my glasses on, I've tried playing snooker. I mean, these are not proper glasses. They just, every time I put these glasses on, they just turn the other half on. I don't know why. Just get it done. But if I get down on the shot like that, there, Martin, if I get down on the shot and I'm looking down the table, you can't. I always thought you had to have glasses that went right over the top.
Well, I proved the physics wrong.
Very, very difficult. So I'm sure some players prefer to wear contact lenses. Have you tried contact lenses?
Can't wear them.
Okay. I can't wear them either. But I don't really need glasses. I'm told I've got...
But the ones that I'm wearing now, this pair is my day-to-day, like, just general glasses. But as I say, I had some glasses made and I tried them out. I noticed at the shootout last year that it started to become a little bit blurry when I was looking down the end of the queue. So I kind of knew that I had to make a change. So I decided to give it a go. And it's one of those where maybe if I had changed glasses 5-6 years ago, who knows what could have happened. Maybe even if I started wearing them right from the beginning of my career, who knows? Maybe some of it could have been the fact of I was wearing normal glasses to play snooker. So maybe that was what was stopping me winning tournaments. But I'd won stuff wearing these glasses as well as I've done well wearing the new glasses. So
I'm taking these off bloody Harry Enfield, Anyway, my optician has told me that I have normal eyesight for a 39-year-old man, So I thought I was very pleased about that, Don't you start, okay? Right, let's talk about cues, tips, and chalk.
Yeah, I got a piece of wood.
Have you played with the same cue the whole duration? How often do you change your cue? What's the best cue in the world?
My cue's the best cue in the world because I've had it for 25 years and I've never changed.
25 years you've had that cue. And what is it?
Well, besides it being a piece of wood, it's it's an A&A cues, an Aeon cue. Obviously, that they don't exist anymore. Funny enough, I was talking to Liam Highfield last weekend because he asked me what cue I was using, and I told him which one, and he had exactly not the same as me, but he used an A&A cue, Aeon cue when he first started playing, and he said weird coincidence how like I'm still using my one and I haven't changed. Don't get me wrong, I've got a Paris cue, I've got two Maximus cues. The two Maximus cues that I had made, I don't like using them because they're so beautiful. I don't want to touch them because I'll be worried I might break them.
Hang them on the wall.
When I get myself like a proper snooker room, I'll have them up in the room. But the Maximus cues, they're beautiful. If I was to change, then I'd probably use one of them. But hopefully, touch wood, I won't need a change cue before my career finishes.
What do you got on?
As for tips, I use a medium to hard blue diamond.
Old school. Old school.
Old school. I don't like change. Like I've been given loads of tips. I've been given century tips. I've been given ADR tips. Because I don't do my own tips, I don't trust myself with knife and glue. I'll probably end up sticking all my fingers together. Because I don't trust myself to put my own tips on. I just stick to what I know is best, and I'm happy using a blue diamond. So I don't want to, because having John Paris does my tips all the time. So and I'm very grateful for that because if when he's not open, he still allows me to come and have a new tip put on. So I'm very grateful for what he does. I'm sure every player is very grateful to him for some of the work that he does for us players. So yeah, as I say, I stick to blue diamond. I don't like to change. I may do at one point, but I can't see it anytime soon. The only thing that I have changed recently is the chalk. I've gone from master chalk to tome or tam, however you want to pronounce it. I'm using the soft version.
The green stuff.
Yeah, it's like the gold banded one.
Oh, that's very soft chalk. Very soft chalk.
Beautiful. I find it sticks to my tip perfectly. I'm human again. We all get miscues. I do get the odd miscue, don't get me wrong, but I haven't had many. I'll be honest with you, I haven't had many. I know a lot of people. There are some players out there that criticise the chalk, saying it's rubbish, blah blah blah. But unless they've given it a full proper go, see a lot of players they get put off straight away once they see one miscue. But that might not be through the chalk. That might be through your cue action, through your technique. It could be anything. You could have had a little twitch up. It could be anything to do like that. So, as far as I'm concerned, if players are not prepared to give it a try, then I don't see why they should slag it off. So,
right, let's go off snooker for just a minute, okay? Because we need to wind this up in a couple of minutes. What do you do to what do you do outside the sport? What do you do in pastime? What's your thing? You like to go running? You like
golf.
I go looking for women, and it doesn't work all the time. But Sean Murphy likes to play with his toys. Chris Henry likes to tickle his wife's feet. What's your pleasure? What do you do?
I love playing golf. Love playing golf. That's my home from home when I'm not playing snooker. I like to be on the golf course.
You play a decent game or what?
I'm off 10.
It's good.
Handicap of 10. So, but I don't get to play enough because my main job takes most of the time up. But particularly in the summer, if I get the option to go and play golf or practice, it's I'm on the golf course. You won't find me in a snooker club. You'll find me on the golf course hitting golf balls. I find it's a good way to relax. You can switch your phone on to silent, switch off for 4 hours, and just enjoy. And particularly with the group that I'm in, that I like to play golf with, we have a great laugh. We don't play for stupid money. We play for friendly couple of quid, and we all have a good laugh. And there's no reason for anyone to get upset if they lose a couple of quid. There's no like arguing or nothing. We have a great round of golf between us all. Then it's straight to the pub and have a few beers, maybe go on and have a Chinese or something like that at the end of the evening, and we've all had a great day. So that I find it so relaxing. Some people say to me, "Oh, golf's like a walk, wasted," and like stuff like that, and I'm like, well, if you actually took the time and tried playing golf, and even if they just went for a walk around the golf course with someone that played it, just to see what kind of atmosphere you get from it, I'm pretty sure that a lot more people would be either taking it up or just going for a walk around the golf course with their respective partners.
Do you know, I love golf, Martin, but I gave golf up to do this, you know, to run events and do this type of thing. And, you know, I miss it, but I was really crap at it. And I think what made it worse, I was playing with a couple of young guys who played off scratch, and all they did was just take the piss out of me for like 3 hours, you know, and you know, they had a great laugh at my expense, you know, and I just thought, you know, all right, I can't hit a birdie every hole like you can, you know, but, you know, I love the game, and all right, I slice the ball a lot. And
it's very similar to snooker. It's very similar within like the hand-eye coordination. But the other thing is, it's another type of sport where you just want to play to enjoy it. You don't want. There's no reason for you to get angry and upset if you know that you're not at a decent level. More often than not, you just want to go out there and enjoy yourself. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you get to smash the living daylights out of a golf ball. You could do a Happy Gilmore impersonation, take a big run up and give it a good wallop. So, but if there was anyone out there, I'd say to him, give golf a try. Trust me.
It is very relaxing. I love that. I miss the walk, actually. I missed that 4-mile walk, you know, and we had a great laugh. I had a great laugh with the guys.
Well, that's the one thing I haven't enjoyed with this since lockdown started in January. They're complaining that everyone's getting fat, obese, all this malarkey, and you've closed off one of the best options for exercise, a 4-mile walk around a golf course. With even if you allowed it with just one other person, you've got company, and you're going to be. It's one of the easiest sports to socially distance. I can't understand why we can't play golf or even tennis. It's perfect exercise for everybody.
That's going to open up again, hopefully in a few weeks, Martin. But just touching on that, there, how have you been? How are you dealing with COVID in Milton Keynes?
Thankfully, I've never had it, as far as I'm aware of. So I don't. I can't explain the symptoms or anything. So I've never had it.
Situation being cooped up at Milton Keynes and
I didn't enjoy it at the beginning.
Yeah.
The beginning part I didn't enjoy because of the actual way it was set up. It was a case like you arrive sort of 11 o'clock in the morning the day before, you have your test, and then you sit in the room all day and you can't leave, which obviously doesn't help me. I don't know if most people have seen it, but the fact I smoke, so obviously I can't. And the thing was, you couldn't open any windows in the room, so it's not like I could open a window, stick my head out, and have a quick puff on the cigarette or anything. I'm literally sat in my hotel room, can't leave the room for like 16 to 18 hours. That was a little bit tedious. There's been the odd occasion where, like, we had one of the events at I think it was a Matchroom event. They told us we've got to arrive at like 12 o'clock, have your test, but you'll be allowed to leave your room by 8 o'clock once we've knocked on the door. So I was like, okay. So it's getting to like 7:30, 7:45, and like you're like a dog on heat. You're standing by the door, going, scratching at the door, trying to get out. And then somebody turns up at like 11 o'clock saying, oh, you can finally leave. So I've been sat there for 3 hours, pulling my hair out, waiting for someone to knock on the door to let me out. But I do like the system that they've got at the minute, to be fair. You literally turn up, you have your test, you go and sit in the room for 15, 20 minutes. Then they come in, they give you your wristband, and then they go, right, off you go. So there are bits and pieces that I think contradict it a little bit, where the fact is we're allowed to go out and then come back in. We're allowed to go out to the shops. We're allowed to go here. Obviously, I know a lot of players, we're not always going to want to eat hotel food anyway. So, but it just seems like there are a few little tweaks that could possibly be done, and just to make it a little bit more. It is very safe. Don't get me wrong. I can't disagree with that.
Mm-hmm.
What World Snooker have done to keep the events going, you can't knock them.
I think
the amount of work,
fantastic job. It's great.
Yeah, the amount of work that they've all done, all behind the scenes, you can't knock them for that. It's been great. So, but yeah, I'm not sure if I've had it or anything like that. But I don't want to get it if I haven't. But
I think we've got
it is what it is. So it's doing its rounds. So it's one of those where if you do get it, you just got to hope that the symptoms you get of it are very minute and you don't get it to the full extent.
Mm-hmm. I think that we've all managed to cope very well with it, and hopefully with the vaccination, we're coming out of it. Anyway, on a more positive front, Marty, just before
I am quite lucky though, because obviously I can still go and practice. So I'm not cooped up all day indoors like like some people might be.
Yep. No, you have to carry on practicing, which you're perfectly within your rights to do. Right. So what's the future got in store, Bud? Where do you see yourself going? What are your positive thoughts about your game at the moment, and where do you want to take yourself?
To be honest with you, I don't really ever set targets or anything like that. I always find that if I set a target for myself, something will come along and kick me up the backside and ruin it. So if I do set anything, I just keep it to myself. So that way, then it doesn't. If I set myself a target that I know I can't reach, or I might have set myself a target that some people might think, well, he's a little bit overconfident or anything like that. So I keep everything to myself. Regarding that sort of factor, just so, cause with life in general, how it is now, you get criticized for anything you say, anything you do, and you sometimes you can't walk down the road without getting someone having a moan at you. So I don't really set any targets. The biggest target for me that I can tell you is I just want to keep enjoying playing. The more I keep enjoying playing, the more I feel as if my game will improve and I'll get good results because I'm enjoying it. Once the love and the hunger goes completely, then I know it's time to put the cue away and get the golf clubs out and move to Spain.
That's great. Martin, I can't think of a better way to wrap this up, mate. If you want to just hang on there in the backstage for me for a wee second, I'll speak to you in a minute, if that's all right.
Yeah, no problem. No problem at all.
Well, thanks very much for the profile, mate. And hopefully you'll be on the tour. We'll do this again in another 5 or 10 years when you're old and you've won another half a dozen ranking events.
No problem. My pleasure.
There you go, guys. That was Martin. I'm not sure who we're going to have on next week. I'm probably going to have a couple of young professionals who have only just got on the tour. I'm going to try and get Joe Connor and Louis Heathcote on next week on a little split screen. The guys can tell us what it's like on the tour, how they're doing, how they're managing with all the stress of playing these big names and dealing with all the stress of the event and competition and trying to win a few quid, you know. That's who we're going to try and get on next week. So thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And whether you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook. It gets uploaded on YouTube. It stays there forever. So you can all get a little bit of a background on the players as we interview them and sort of get the feel of where they are when they're on the tour. And that's the reason why I'm doing this, to help not only just the players, but all you fans. And go on the YouTube channel for me, guys, and subscribe. It helps with everything we're doing on the platform and where we're going. And I hope you're all going to stay safe. And I'll see you all again soon. Bye for now.